You know, when we think about history, our minds usually jump to famous leaders or epic battles. But what if I told you that sometimes the real story, the real power, is hidden right in the land itself? Today, we're going to dig into how the unique geography of just one U.S. state quietly became a powerhouse that literally shaped the 20th century.
So here's the central question. How did one single state manage to both fuel a world war and feed the world? Now, at first glance, those two things seem completely disconnected, right? But they share this common, really surprising origin in the forests and rivers of Minnesota. Okay, let's get into it.
We're about to uncover what I like to call the two secret ingredients hiding in Minnesota's landscape. These were the unseen engines that provided the raw power for the Allied victory in World War II, and, at the same time, for the rise of a global food empire.
All right, first up, the arsenal of democracy. Let's start with the biggest conflict in human history, World War II. Now, this wasn't just a war of soldiers, it was a war of industrial might. And all that steel, it had to come from somewhere. Look, the war wasn't just one with courage and strategy. It was one with an absolutely unprecedented amount of steel. We're talking about the steel for the thousands of ships crossing the oceans, the tanks that rolled across Europe, and the millions upon millions of munitions that armed the Allied forces.
Now, this is where it gets really mind-blowing. Over 70%, let that sink in, 70% of all the iron ore used by the entire U.S. war effort came from one single source in northern Minnesota. That is just a staggering figure. And this wasn't just any old iron deposit. The Mesabi Range was, for all intents and purposes, a geologic jackpot. The ore wasn't just super high grade, it was also sitting right near the surface. That meant you could just scoop it out in these enormous open-pit mines, making it incredibly fast and efficient to extract.
So here's the crucial part. You can draw a direct, unbroken line from that red earth in Minnesota straight to the battlefields of Europe and the Pacific. The land itself was literally being dug up, put on ships, and forged into what became known as the arsenal of democracy.
And look, don't just take my word for it, this quote really nails it. The unique geology of this one spot in this one state had a direct and just monumental impact on the final outcome of the largest war in human history. It's incredible. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit, because Minnesota's geography didn't just shape a war. It also had a huge say in what the entire world was eating. And this part of the story kicks off with another totally unique geographic feature. Smack dab in the middle of what would become Minneapolis, you have St. Anthony Falls. And this wasn't just a pretty view. This was an immense, concentrated source of raw kinetic energy. And you better believe the industrialists of the 19th century saw its potential right away.
The whole process was actually pretty simple, but unbelievably powerful. They just harnessed the raw power of the river's geography, using that falling water to spin massive turbines. And those turbines powered enormous flour mills around the clock, grinding up all the wheat coming in from the Great Plains.
Honestly, it's hard to overstate what a game changer this was. The energy from that one waterfall completely redefined the city. It went from just a small little settlement on the river to the undisputed milling capital of the entire world for 50 years. And this is the coolest part. That falling water directly led to the creation of household names you probably have in your kitchen right now. We're talking giants like Pillsbury and General Mills. They were born right there, powered by that waterfall, and it's why the city got its famous nickname, the Mill City.
So when you put these two stories side by side, the story of the Iron Range and the story of the waterfall, this really powerful theme just pops right out. Local geography can have a massive and often totally hidden global impact.
So think about it. An Iron Range and a waterfall, just two specific features in one state. But together, they fundamentally changed the course of global history and commerce, one by helping to win a war and the other by literally feeding the world.
And I think that's the real takeaway here. It's about having a new appreciation for how the physical world we live in can secretly drive the human stories we tell. History isn't just made by people. It's also made by the land itself.
And that really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What unassuming landscapes out there today hold the keys to the conflicts, the economies, and the innovations of tomorrow? What quiet corners of the world are secretly shaping our future, right now without us even realizing it?